What is going on, everybody? Three Amigos podcast back again with a new episode. Here, it's just Chris and Frankie. For now, Anthony might hop in a little bit later. We're not sure, but what's going on, buddy? How are
Good, good. Living the married life.
you? A little bomb drop there, because I'm pretty sure you literally haven't mentioned that happened.
I
But
know.
yeah, Frankie's got a wife now, so
Yes, I'm married. I am married. I'm the marriedest man of all men. All men. Yes, that makes sense.
pretty high ranking up there in the
Yes.
married tier list.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
It's
pretty
it's,
married.
it's fun.
I'll
I
tell you something I've been married to in the past, Frankie. Challenging video games. It can be a bit of an addiction when you find a point in a game that is so challenging that you don't want to quit because you don't want to admit that you're not good enough,
mm,
but you also aren't good enough to get past
mhm.
that moment. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some of our most rage quitting memories with video games. Maybe it's a game as a whole, maybe it's a level, certain point in a game, that sort of thing. We're not going to be including like, glitches or crashes or stuff
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
not
That's
fair.
like more technical, but just like levels and all that sort of stuff. Because we've all been there.
Hmm.
We've all been there, played a game that just made us fucking scream because it was so challenging. Yeah, man. Did you have one off the top of your head? Because I got a couple, but
I have a
I'm gonna
few,
throw
but
it to you.
I want to like kind of like add like an amendment to that.
Yeah, for
Is like
sure.
you purposely make the game difficult for yourself because you're up for the challenge and you think you're good enough. Like you said, it kind of so
Ooh.
exactly like in there. So like as we know, and the reason this was like this became a thing, a topic, and we wanted Anna on here, but we seem to lost contact with our co-host here. But is because you saw the video of Charlie at Penguin Zero making the bounty for 20K to beat Halo 2 on like the highest difficulty with like the
Yes.
most stupid of a skulls when you purposely make the game even harder than harder. Legendary is the hardest in Halo. And then you can make it even harder than that
Yep.
because, just to prove a point, I guess, that you're a badass. And there was an achievement in there that requires you to basically not die the entire game. And that's an achievement. And it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. It's moronic. And no one's been able to do it apparently for the last 18 years. No one's done it since then, and no
That's
one's completed it as we know it now. So, but
wow.
for
You didn't
me,
want to enter? Did you weren't tempted at all, like to hop in just to see how far you could get?
no, I'm not gonna bother. I'm not because
20
I
racks,
I'm
dude.
not that
20
good.
racks, bro. No, like there's no penalty if you lose.
I can't do it anymore. I'm not that good of a Halo
Oh,
gamer. I'm not like I'm good, but I'm not that good. I was good. I was amazing at one point, sure, but like,
back when we were like 15 and we had better reaction time. Yeah.
yeah. But all right, so
Did
I guess
anyone did anyone actually like win that?
no, no. Like I said, it's still going on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So go ahead, throw out a game or a part of a game that you recall raging over. I know that there's one game that we both played that we got equally angry at.
Okay, fine. So let's talk about that one first, I guess. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
that one was Fallen Order.
Yes. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes, that was very difficult, very annoying, and it wasn't to the sense that it was that annoying. It was more to the sense that it I guess I was rusty and I didn't want to admit that I was rusty in playing like adventure challenging games.
You got
So
pretty, you texted me and you were getting
yeah,
really mad. Like you were
I
getting,
was.
and I get like there's a point in the game, there's like a lot of challenging fights in that game, but there's the first one I remember is with the third sister, I think.
Or whatever. The forearm bitch,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
big bitch.
Fucking built like a fucking tank. And I don't remember, specifically one thing that made that fight hard, but I do know that she had like a crazy attack pattern that was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
difficult. If there was a way to memorize it, they had her programmed where she like didn't Yeah, and like the reversals and the blocking and parry. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny too about Fallen Order. Like, I don't think like when I booted that game up,
Hmm.
I play all my games on normal. I'm not one of these fucking psychopaths that like wants
Yeah.
to not enjoy my playthrough. But that game had a really different idea of what
Yeah.
difficulty was. Because like,
What's up, everybody?
oh,
Oh, hey,
what's up, Freddie?
look at
What's
that.
up? Anthony also played Fallen Order. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure we all played on normal. But that fight against the third sister, there's also a point. The closest I got to quitting that game, like legitimately putting it down, and just like not wanting to finish it.
Yeah. So the thing with that too is like I am so used to I've played like sword slashing games and blocking didn't make sense to me in that game. I should have been the L trigger, so I had to play. I literally modified the controls so I can block with L, and that made that game so much better for me, in my opinion. So but like blocking with B, having to block with B was just not fun. It's like with fighting games too. It's like you block with the L with the triggers or you push back, and
Yeah,
that's how you block, not with B. So I found the game's controller a little to be difficult, which I'm sure that was on purpose in a way. But
probably.
the game itself was just very challenging. That's probably the hardest normal game I've on a normal difficulty game I've ever played personally. I'm
It
trying
was
to remember
Dark
if there was a
Souls. I mean, like, and
besides
they
Dark Souls.
no, like
I've
they
never personally
didn't
played.
like Respawn didn't hide from the fact that they were trying to make like a
Yeah,
Star
it
Wars
was
Dark
Star
Souls.
Wars Dark Souls. Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, and that game was there's a point towards the end of that game where you're facing like a gauntlet. I think it's like you're in like the Inquisitor, I don't know, ship, whatever it is, towards the
Right.
end. And there's like a gauntlet where you have to fight, I think like 5 or 6 waves of enemies. And it's like the hardest enemies in the game.
is
The
that where the
ones like,
platform opens up and it drops you in and something like
yeah.
that?
And
Yeah,
there's a point in that fight where you can't heal anymore. And there's like 3 more rounds left.
Oh, word. Word. Now I remember.
I almost like stopped playing. I
yeah.
was, I was just
I think
like,
that's
this
the
is
part where I had to find a trick to push some of them off into the opening, just to
yeah,
like eliminate some of them. But the force push wouldn't always push them behind, or if you try to do a heavy attack, it won't always push them down. Um,
brutally hard. I feel like it's worth noting. This is not necessarily like a combat difficulty thing. I believe there were at least 2 puzzles. There's one specifically I remember that I had to look up on the internet because I could not figure them out. Like
Ooh.
there were a couple moments in that game where I was like, I'm not smart enough. I
I
feel
think
really
I did it
dumb.
once. I looked up once. Yeah.
Man, I try so hard. I don't know about you guys, but I always try to not look shit up when I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
tried not to.
unless I get to a point where I'm like stuck for a good 20 minutes and I'm like, I'm not gonna get it, and I'm really close to not having fun anymore,
Mm.
then I'll finally break down. But there were Fallen Order is that's pretty high up there, especially as one of the games that all 3 of us played that we all found pretty freaking challenging.
Yeah, I
I
had a moment where I played it for a bit, and then I stopped for almost a year maybe,
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
didn't come
That's
back into it.
stupid.
And
That's fine.
I don't know the
It
word. I
took me
just
2 years
stopped.
to beat Tomb Raider 3, so it's okay. I think 2 years, something like that. And that wasn't even that hard of a game. I think the second one was harder, and that was still much fun. Second, but I
Yeah,
prefer the first one. No, the first one was harder. I think the first one was harder.
second one had some hard moments. I want to go back and play that. The game was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one that I purposely made difficult for myself, and it's kind of annoying, and I can't imagine how it is with skulls on
Mm.
Halo, but
You know?
it's Halo Reach. Halo Reach. So when it came out, and I wound up beating it, but not without some mental turmoil and second guessing my teenage self and the decisions I've made up to that point. But like Halo Reach, like you get 2 weapons and grenades. The first weapon is your choice. The second weapon, if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, you have to basically grab the shittiest gun possible, which is the laser pistol or
Mm.
plasma pistol, excuse me. And basically that was your that's your side weapon. In fact, that's probably your main weapon, because in order to pretty much get past the main enemies, the Covenant, you had to use that plasma pistol because you have to charge it up blast them, and then bring their shields down, and then you can one hit KO them. So that's why maybe preferably you should have like an assault rifle or a battle rifle, a rifle that's or a battle rifle, a rifle that's precision based. So then you can just one shot them in the head, because using an assault rifle or just shooting them in the body will just not suffice. So you needed to charge that plasma pistol, use that plasma pistol, and then make sure you hit them, and hopefully it follows them. Because sometimes you would miss and it won't follow, and then you use half your charge. So you went from 100 to 50 easily, and then next thing you know, you only have like one charge left for one more enemy. So you had to be precise and smart about how you use that plasma pistol, because the plasma pistol was indeed your mandatory sidearm, besides a shotgun maybe as a potential backup. But even then, the shotgun's limited in range, and it only works close quarters. And you have people with swords. It was a. I'm surprised young Frankie was able to do that and keep his composure for the most part. I definitely had some moments where I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I really don't know why I'm causing myself more emotional pain than I already was. But that was a game that was pretty hard. Modern Warfare 2 on Legendary is pretty difficult, but Halo stood out to me more as the hardest, because you could definitely. It's just you were limited on what you could use in terms of weapons, and I'm sure there were some achievements that were very difficult for you to complete if you didn't do a certain way of playing the game. But yeah,
I guess this topic today is like hard video games you played, or
yeah, hard video games as a whole, or just like specific, because there are a lot of games where the game itself as a whole isn't like it's not thought of as a hard game, but then there will be like an infamous part of a game that is like there's like a massive difficulty spike, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I was just cruising along, and then all of a sudden I was kicked in the dick with this like massive difficulty spike. One of the games that I feel like Anthony and I have talked about this for years, because we both found it insanely challenging, and it needs to be on the Mount Rushmore of difficult games that you played when you were a kid. Jak 2.
Jak 2, yeah.
Jak 2 is iconic. There are a lot of things that make that game challenging, but the one that made it, I mean, just like, I don't even know if this is like bad game design, because Naughty Dog's usually pretty good, but just like unfairly difficult, no matter what difficulty, if there was even different difficulties for that game. You got, I think,
4 hits to die.
Yeah, you got like 4 little health bars or whatever. And if you got hit 4 times, you died. And this wouldn't usually be a problem, except that Jak 2 came out during a phase where video game checkpoint systems were terrible. Like, if you died, you would legit have to replay like a solid half hour of shit that was already hard enough to get through in the first place. Jak 2 is also very fondly remembered for some of the most insane timed missions, where like there's like a mission in Jak 2 where you are flying through one of the cities on one of their flying like bikes, and you can't mess up even once, or like it's literally designed where you need a perfect run, otherwise you'll lose.
Yeah, I remember that one, man.
And I was like, bro, I died on that so many times because I was like 12. I'm not good at fucking perfect running, like one-shotting these missions, and like Jak 2 can fuck off, dude. I like
all the
that
way
game.
I'll say this, because the first one I played was the third one, and at the time it was a bit challenging. And then I played the second one and saw how hard that one was compared to the third one. And when I went back to the third one, it was a breeze, like it was a cakewalk.
Dude, from like Jak 2 to Jak 3 is one of the biggest difficulty downgrades I can remember playing in a game.
Yeah.
It would be like if Dark Souls said, okay, we'll make it easier. Like, Jak 2 was so brutally hard just from like a design standpoint, and then like a lot of the missions were challenging. And then Jak 3, first of all, they like doubled the health that you got, and they gave you all these extra abilities, and like it was easier to find precursor herbs, you have better guns, all that stuff. Like,
You can self-heal at some point.
yeah, they gave you an ability that you could literally heal yourself. Jak 2, it was a great game. Like, I have fond memories of it, but unfortunately, one of those fond memories is how fucking hard that game was.
Even like the map wasn't bad. It was an interesting city you can explore, and
Yeah,
it actually felt alive because the third one they're in war, so it's all
yeah,
damage and fights, and the second one people are moving around and living and shit, and
yeah. I mean, when we were younger, like that was pretty close to GTA. Like you just steal
yeah.
people's cars and like ride
Mm.
around and take out your guns and start
Oh,
shooting
but their
everybody.
fucking pursuit, the soldiers, man, those were
Oh, brutal.
almost impossible to escape. It was so hard.
There was a mission, I think, where you have to go from the main city back to like the little hideout
Yeah.
that you start out the game in. And if they hit you once, you died. Like you couldn't your health was
Yeah,
like
like a bomb with you or something, right?
yeah. And it was like if they hit you with their lasers one time, that was it. The mission was over. You had to
Yeah.
restart. Like, oh man, that shit fucking sucked.
Yeah.
I did have one that is not a reaction based difficulty, but it is a pretty famous difficulty spike in a series of games that people often complain about being too easy. And that is Cynthia from Pokemon. For those of you who don't know, there is a character in the Pokemon universe named Cynthia who is widely regarded as the most difficult fight
I've heard.
ever put into a Pokemon game.
I've heard.
Into
I
like
got spared.
into a mainline Game Freak Pokemon game. There are a couple reasons as to why. The first reason is that they do not tell you where she is. And so in Pokemon, you are usually rewarded for walking into random people's houses, essentially just breaking and entering because everybody leaves their door open for some reason. And you're playing Pokemon, so you walk around, you like go into people's houses, talk to you, they give you like a potion or a great ball or whatever. And this was the meanest bait and switch that Game Freak could have ever done because the way they set it up is you walk into a random house and you start talking. So you didn't save. If you don't know Cynthia's in the game, you don't save. You're just walking around. I walked into this random house, started talking to this girl wearing like a black dress. I was like, all right, whatever. And then a battle starts, and the first Pokemon she throws out is Spiritomb. And at the time that they had put Cynthia into the Pokemon games,
Mm.
Spiritomb had no weaknesses. It was, I think, Dark and Ghost, which meant that it had no super effective moves. It was resistant to pretty much everything. Cynthia had a team that was basically the same sort of team you'd see if you were watching like a competitive Pokemon battle. And it was like facing Red on steroids, like the most out of the blue Pokemon battle. There's a good chance you went into that battle without a full team or without like your like A squad. I think when I faced her, the battle took like 40 minutes. Like it turns into so much swapping out max revives, full restores, like desperately trying to not run out of the power points for your best moves. Brutal, brutal. Cynthia, I don't know if I can remember another example of a game that was like not that hard, and then all of a sudden was the hardest game I'd ever played. Like that fight is famous in the this is why I always tell people stop telling Game Freak the games are too easy because they can make them really hard.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing we're going to be able to do. You don't want a whole game full of Cynthias. I did want to say honorable mention is Red, just because that fight is pretty challenging if you don't know what he's going to have.
Yeah. I
And
got
also,
off easy.
yeah, also because his team is like fucking level 85 or something,
His
which,
Snorlax was a beast.
dude, not to mention Red being part of Johto, which is like synonymous with one of the weakest regions, and just in terms of like everybody's level that whole game, super under leveled. The fucking Elite Four is like level 40. Somehow Lance has level 40 Dragonites. And then you face Red and everything is level 90, and you're like, what? How am I
Yeah.
supposed to beat
Yeah.
this guy? But yeah, Cynthia goes down as one of the hardest moments I can remember playing a video game.
Yeah, she was still hard to face in Shining Pearl.
Yeah. Well, now it's like famous, but
Yeah.
now they added weaknesses for Spirit Tomb, so it's like a little bit more fair,
Good.
but brutal.
That's brutal.
Leon was pretty tough too in Sword and Shield. He had a pretty good team.
Oh yeah, he was pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what classic games I've had a hard time with. Because I know a recent game I had a really hard time with, and you both know what game I'm thinking about that I had a really hard time with recently.
Yeah. Metroid.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Explain. Why don't you admit to the audience how bad you were at that game?
So I will say I originally played Super Metroid, I guess, to get prepared for this one. And I was looking at a speed run of Super Metroid so I can get through it quickly and try to beat it. And I've seen one other review about Metroid Dread being bad, and that was from a game director who was, as they would say, bad at the game.
Mhm.
But people were saying shit about him, saying like, "Oh, you don't understand the way, the direction that they wanted to go with this game or whatever." But he was looking at it from a game director point of view of like, who would put this in a game, put that in a game. But I don't know if you played the older games. So when I played it, I think that there's two main elements here of why I was so bad at the game, why I was so terrible at the game. Number one, the game was, legit, challenging. Like, it's all about perfect timing for certain things, even with the robot things, the Emmy, I think they call them. You got to have a perfect time to avoid them, because if not, it's a one-hit kill.
Right.
But also the controls, mainly with the analog stick, because you use the left analog to run and aim. And I think that would have been fixed with a right stick, but that's how they wanted to make the game. And because you would end up aiming at an enemy in the ceiling and not realize you're also running, and you run into like an enemy or an attack. So that was just my main issues with the game. Like, it's hard, but me and Frankie talked about this before a while back about like, yeah, the games like this and Dark Souls is for those fans who know that the games are hard, but they should maybe think about including a easier mode to bring in new people who want to try it. But yeah, Metroid Dread was one of the harder ones for me. I really did not enjoy my time with Metroid Dread. Like but I did beat it. I did manage. I didn't want to give up and like walk away, so I did beat it, and then I sold it after I beat it, and then that kind of just closed the book on that. But yeah, I can't think of any classic games off the top of my head besides Jak 2 that was like rage quit challenging.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I did remember another one that all three of us actually played together at the same time. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
That could be hard, yeah.
I actually liked that game. But the final boss fight, one of the things that made it hard was that there was no checkpoint. And you're fighting like Thanos's son or brother or something. I forget exactly who it was.
Forgot about that fight. Was the son.
Yeah. But dude, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but there were at least, it was like maybe a 3-part fight. And
yeah, now I remember.
We lost a lot. Like, I
Some
think there were a couple moments where we had to look up like how to do certain things in that game. That might have been one of those instances where we were like, we don't know how we're supposed to beat this
There
guy.
was definitely some hard bosses in general. Kingpin, I remember, was one of the hard ones.
Oh.
Green Goblin was a bitch. There were some
Yeah.
really hard bosses in that game, and just
Good
us
boss
three.
fights.
Yeah.
Fucking, like, okay. They claim that game can be played by yourself. I do not know who is beating some of those bosses if you are playing with your own, like, one character. Also, because the way the level up system worked, like, essentially you'd have to like grind out like multiple characters, just I guess replaying levels. Because we got to the final boss and we were definitely under leveled.
Remember
like,
Jimbo?
Oh, we needed Jimbo to come back, man. Jimbo slice.
For those listening, we had we were doing online, and a random guy kept popping up as a fourth player named Jimbo Slice, and I actually knew a guy in college who called himself that. So I was curious if that was him or not. I mean, he was kind of a jerk, but this dude had max levels for like all his characters, and I'm like, yo, we should play with this guy.
He had like the worst characters that he had like maxed out, like Black Widow, like level 85, or just
Yeah,
like,
Mr. Fantastic at like almost 100.
yeah, like what, like why? We need good characters, man.
Loki was
That's
like
my
his strongest, I think.
That was probably his only game that he had. He just leveled up everybody. Like,
He was just a Marvel fanboy.
Yeah, did
I
not go
mean,
out.
how much time is that gonna take to level? That's like, okay, so back in the day, when they had, what was that fighting game, Final Fantasy one? This is it Dissidia?
Yeah,
And Elvin showed me his profile on his game, and he had all, I think it was 26 characters total. It was like 24 characters. He had every single one at max level. And I'm like, dude, what is the game? It was a good game, but the game is not that great in my opinion to level up every single person. I'm like, are you sure you didn't use like some kind of cheat or something? Because
It's funny that you mentioned the City of Final Fantasy because you reminded me. I can't believe we almost finished this episode without mentioning one. This is optional. This is an optional fight. So this is an example of a game where you do not have to make it this hard if you don't want to. But Kingdom Hearts 1, Sephiroth.
Yeah.
Iconic, one of the most, and this is like sort of similar to the Jack 2 game design of just like you had very little health in general and like not that many ways to heal. The magic system was whatever. And like future games it was rechargeable, but in Kingdom Hearts 1 it wasn't. That Sephiroth fight is pure torture. And like this is back in the day when there were no trophies. There were no like you played it just to say you beat him. Like that was it. Just to like go to school the next day and be like, yeah, I beat Sephiroth. Like, yeah, it's fucking hard, but I did it. Like I'm good at the game. Like I remember me and Anthony sitting there, like passing the controller back and forth. Like, bro, how do we beat this guy?
Well, there's two funny things about that fight. Well, the first one is more annoying than funny. You go to heal yourself, and then Donald will heal you at the same time, and you wasted your heal, so you have to wait for your magic to recharge, and then you're screwed because you could have spent it on another attack.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was Chris had a strategy guide for the game, and we read the section on Sephiroth, and the guy who wrote the guide said, so I never actually beat Sephiroth here. So what you got to do though is
we were like, what?
Use like,
give me my money back,
healing items and everything. But I'm like, how did you write this book and you didn't even beat the guy? Like, because we're like, yo, we're screwed. Like, how are we gonna?
Sephiroth had so many attacks that would just take you down to 1 HP immediately if you got hit.
Yeah.
Like
the amount of times you hear that siren noise every time you go down to 1 HP.
Oh my god, I'm getting PTSD. And like the arena that you fight him in is not very big, and he has a fucking, I don't know, 80-foot sword, so he could basically hit you from anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first fight. The second Kingdom Hearts 2 was a little bit easier. It's because the combat system was better. And they had like better summons and whatnot. But that first Sephiroth fight, especially because he, similar to Star Wars Fallen Order, he just had too many attacks to memorize any sort of pattern. Like,
plus, didn't you have to beat all the challenges to get to him? Like you're in Olympus, you have to fight the Titans.
Cloud, which is it's also a hard fight. Like you have to beat Cloud in order to get to Sephiroth. Yeah, that shit was brutal. But we did beat him. We beat him in part 1. We beat him in part 2, and his bitch ass was too scared to come back for part 3. So
good job, gentlemen.
Beat him so bad, we beat him right out of the franchise. Damn it.
Yeah.
Parts anymore. Yeah, Sephiroth has to be part of this discussion because I can hear people yelling at us if we don't mention that he's really, really challenging. Great fight, but my gosh. Brutal. Yeah, did you guys have any other difficult portions of games came to mind?
I'm sure I'm missing some, and maybe we could do like a part 2 on it. But I don't want to revisit my past trauma of a child, where sitting and almost breaking my controllers or my handheld gaming device.
Did you guys ever break a controller before?
Oh yeah.
All right. I think I might have damage one minorly, but not like super, really break it. But
I
I've
broke one.
definitely been in the emotion to do it.
No, I straight up fired one across my apartment and it shattered into like a sad amount of pieces. I just sweep it up,
Jesus.
throw it out, and that's when I was like, you know what? You can't do that with those PS5 controllers. These things are $70. I'm like, no, not getting that mad ever again. But
Buy one of the buy a Power A controller because they're cheaper, and that way, if you do get mad, just break one of those, you'll be okay.
you could smash a few of those.
Yeah.
Well, tune in next time when we talk about what games those were, where we actually broke our controllers. We'll save that. Save that for a future episode. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Three Amigos podcast. Let us know what your super challenging game was. We'll probably have this episode up on YouTube, so be sure to keep us posted. And that is all we got for you today. You guys want to say goodbye?
Later, beautiful people. Thanks for listening.
Later. Sorry, I was late to the party, but
Oh yeah, by the way, Ant, you're fired.
You gotta text me, man.
We'll talk to you guys.
Oh my God.
No, I took it off mute, but I don't know what happened. I didn't get the notifications.
Yeah,
Oh.
SMD boy.
All right.
Good night.
That's all we got. Episode's over. Everybody go home. Go to bed.
Okay.